So there's two things that I want to talk about when it comes to Texas and Governor Greg Abbott. There are two gigantic stories that have come out of Texas in the last 24 hours or so, 28 hours, whatever it is. And that is, one, it is now illegal to be trans in Texas. You will be sent to jail for being trans or for harboring a transgender person. You are now able to be sent to jail in Texas. The other thing that's important to understand is that as that order was announced, it was also revealed, and I'm going to cover this part first, and then we'll go back to the trans genocide underway in Texas. But I want to do this part first. Former ERCOT CEO says he was following Governor Greg Abbott's order when keeping prices at max cap during February 2021 winter storm. I covered the Texas freeze that occurred last year extensively. Dozens and dozens of people died. Children died. To my understanding, the people of Texas owe a collective $3 billion to these companies. And now it was revealed, the governor orchestrated the whole thing. Now, again, it is very important to acknowledge that it is very possible, right, that the CEOs of these companies are just trying to, deflect. It is very possible that they're like, no, wasn't me. It was that guy. Right? So that's very possible. But either way, we all know the governor does have the power and responsibility here. He could have stepped in and stopped things. He could have, forgiven the debt, right? So it's like the governor here is responsible. So again, there are two major stories that came out in Texas. I'm going to be covering them in the same segment here. Houston, Texas. The former CEO of the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, said that his order to keep power prices at the maximum during last year's winter storm was issued at the direction of Governor Greg Abbott, according to a report by the Houston Chronicle. Former ERCOT CEO Bill Magnus testified in court Wednesday, saying the former Public Utility Commission of Texas, PUC, Chairman Deanne Walker told him that Abbott wanted him to do whatever was necessary to prevent more blackouts during the storm, even as power plants were coming back online. Last year, Abbott's spokesman told the Chronicle that the governor was not involved in any way. So a lie, a 180 flip here. That's not like a 100-degree flip. That is a 180-degree flip. They went from no involvement to significant involvement to it was his decision. So he wasn't involved in any way to he was the orchestrator of the whole thing. 180-degree flip. And the decision to keep prices at the maximum of $9,000 per megawatt hour. Not kilowatt hour. Megawatt hour. $9,000. This show that I'm doing right now is probably going to cost more than a couple megawatt hours. This show that I'm doing right now, all my machines hooked up, the internet, right, all my devices, right, not even counting YouTube servers, not even counting the fact that all of you are watching the show on your own devices, but just my show, just me producing the show and sending that information into YouTube would cost, at this point, by this logic, probably maybe $100,000 just doing this show. So that's a little weird. The decision to keep prices at the max cap for more than a day after conditions began improving is what brought forth the bankruptcy trial by Brazos Electric Power Cooperative. Now again, it's one thing if prices are capped when there's actually need for it. Now again, I don't agree that the government should subsidize it no matter what. But it's another thing, everything's back online, we're all good, but let's keep the prices at max for another day and a half just to rake in some money? That's a whole different ballgame. The original order was to raise prices to the max was made by PUC on Feb 15 to try to get power plants back online and to encourage large power users to stay offline, per the report. ERCOT kept prices at the cap until Feb 19. 4 days. not all of which were necessary. The former ERCOT CEO has defended the actions taken by officials to prevent the Texas power grid from going into a total blackout that could have taken weeks or months to recover from. Magnus said Abbott's demand that rotating blackouts end was a risk even as power plants came online. Magnus also described how grid problems could multiply after hours of power outages. When reached for comment Wednesday, Governor Greg Abbott's office provided the following statement: as Texans would expect, Gov. Abbott instructed everyone involved, blah, blah, blah. So these covering up his involvement here. I believe, again, the number that I read was $3.5 billion. That the citizens of Texas owe still a year later. But, yeah. And again, this came out the same day that this came out. And I want to read this.